What's up, NIO family? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with NIO, Tesla SPY, and a couple of other tickers. I'm going to break down why tomorrow is going to be a very important day for the markets as we have the FOMC minutes coming out. Not to mention some big news involving NIO stock. But just note that I'm not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire community as a whole. Anyways, as far as NIO goes, I just want to mention that right now, NIO saw a little bit of a push all the way up to this 4.2 area. We did see a nice little pump in the beginning of the day, only to get a big rejection. And NIO ended up coming down alongside the overall markets. The market did see a bit of a pullback after we hit some tough resistance. So the question is, how will the market move from here? What is my prediction? The answer is, I think right now the market is in a range. The market will remain in that range until we get a big reaction tomorrow based off the data. So tomorrow is going to be Wednesday, August 21st, 2024. There's not really much coming out in the morning. We just have a lot of crude data coming out, nothing too crazy. But then things get very serious as we have a couple of bill auctions coming out and then the FOMC minutes. Now, the FOMC minutes is going to be very important because even though it's not like an FOMC meeting, it's going to give us more insights on a report for what the Fed is thinking. So this is going to be like a written report about the Fed's insights on interest rates and different factors like that. So I'm expecting a very, very big reaction to this. The market is obviously very excited for this, and the market is going to be looking for some interesting volatility. So I'm just going to say that the market's currently predicting there's a 67.5% chance we get a 25 basis point cut and 32.5% chance we get a 50 basis point cut from there. So we'll be watching to see what kind of move is made, and we'll see how things end up progressing from here. But just note that this is going to affect the way in which the market views interest rates and the probabilities. I'm going to be expecting some high volatility for the FOMC meeting, so we'll see how things end up going. Other factors on the markets, I just want to mention that for Thursday, we also have the PMI report coming out, and we have the Jackson Hole Symposium continuing. This will become important on Friday as well, since we have Jerome Powell giving his speech at the symposium. So get ready for a lot of things coming out for the markets. But the big thing is going to be the FOMC minutes. I think there's going to be a big reaction to this tomorrow, and we'll see if this causes a big pump or a dump. Get ready for high volatility. Now, right now, the market is quite neutral. We're getting a nice little push in this direction to neutral, but we will get back to fear if we start to see the market dipping again. So be careful with where we're currently at. The market momentum is back to greed. We're just at greed right now. Greed is still making up sentiments, but we'll have to see if we can hold particular levels to maintain this. The puts and call option positioning is starting to, it's once again in this greed area. We're still seeing a lot of buyers stepping into the markets. They're still defending their positions, but we'll see if this shifts upward or not. We'll be very patient with this. The VIX is trying to rebound. We're currently testing our 50 daily moving average, so we'll see what kind of reaction we get. So that being said, that's what I'm seeing at least for the markets thus far. As far as NIO goes, I just want to mention that right now, NIO is powering up its infrastructure with new swap station plants, and they're targeting an annual capacity of more than 1,000 battery swap stations. That's some big news as they're trying to power up. And with more stations potentially opening up, they're planning on once again having more than 2,300 counties and 27 provisional level regions in total, basically by December 31st of 2025. So this is big news for them as we're starting to see a lot more growth coming to the company, and I think that this will incentivize more buyers to come in. Now, the reason why this is important is because now with more of these swap stations all over the place, it'll become a lot more convenient for people to just get their EVs set and ready, and then they can just do battery swaps pretty easily. So it's a big piece of news for them, and with this expanding across China and many different European countries, it just adds to the convenience for their users. NIO also hosted the Power Up 2024 in Wuhan. That's getting a lot of attention right now. Volume is currently at about 43.5 million, a little bit below average. We did push to the upward direction only to get a rejection, so that was a very interesting play. And then it's also worth noting that the price versus short volume is showing shorting is going up. Bank of America Securities gave this a neutral rating, and then we're also starting to see the price price ratio dipping. So those are the big factors I'm seeing at least thus far. What do I see for the share price? What's my opinion of NIO? We need to get back above 3.96 to start pushing it into the fours. And if we fail to do so, we're going to likely dip. The share price looks a little bit more bearish after getting this liquidity grab in this big red bar. So generally, this does lead to more downside. And we could be targeting at least this imbalance down here towards 3.76. So I think the odds favor a little bit of a dip coming to NIO. We might dip a little bit lower, but don't forget the FOMC minutes may affect whether or not it's a bigger dip or not. For Tesla, I just want to mention that Tesla has a nice looking range right over here. We're currently losing the 220 area, so we look a little bit weaker here. We still could be forming kind of like a cup and handle, but I am seeing a risk of this dipping a little bit closer to like 217, 218, that range down there. We are kind of rejecting on Tesla, so I do see a little dip coming, but whether or not we get a bigger dip or a big bounce depends on the FOMC minutes. Technicals show a little bit of a dip that could be coming, so we might dip a little bit lower, closer to this 215 area. Then we'll see if we get a bounce or not, depending on the FOMC minutes. But for now, we are looking like we might dip a little bit more, at least for the share price. For SPY, looks a little bit weaker. We have a range between 558 and 560. If 558 breaks, we're going back down to 556. That's the next critical support. This does favor us kind of dipping it closer to about 556, and we'll see if we get a bounce or not off of that. So it all depends on the FOMC minutes, but for now we do look a little bit more bearish, might dip a little bit more. I also think that what's going to contribute to us potentially dipping is ES, because when you look at ES, what generally happens is you like to test the breakouts right here. So the breakouts around this 5600 area. We could get close to 5600 flats before anything else. For Nvda is dipping a little bit as well. We'll be watching to see how well we hold above this support. If we end up losing 125, we could be dipping to 123, and then we'll see if we bounce or not. But the QQQ is the same thing. We're starting to turn. We're barely at 480, so it might shuffle a little bit. If we do lose that, I could see us dip again to about 478, then rebound and just consolidate for a bit. But I do see a risk of us dipping just a little bit. The breakout would take us down to 475, so there's a risk of that. And then we'll see if this is going to be heavily impacted by what's going on with the FOMC minutes. Will the minutes cause a little bit of a dip and a bounce, or will we dip first and then bounce? I see a dip coming, approaching the FOMC minutes, and then we'll see if that leads to a bounce or not. But for now, I do see a little bit of downside coming first. If you look at Aapl, we haven't been able to crack 226 is kind of tough resistance. So we do crack, 227. If we crack that, we're going to be going higher for that 230 target. If not, we could retrace just a bit all the way down to 225. So we'll see what the reaction happens to be. For the IWM, we hit this resistance around this 216 area, and we have support currently around this 212 zone. If 212 fails us, we could be dipping back down towards not only the 211s, but I would say this 210.9 area, very close to this trend line. So this could be dipping a little bit. We do look a little bit more bearish here. We could dip a little bit more, and then we'll see what kind of reaction we get with the very, very important Fed report that's coming out, the FOMC minutes. So we'll see. Coinbase looks a little bit weaker. We might shuffle a bit. I'm seeing buyers defending 192 since this is where we have some tough support. And there's also resistance around 200. Now, if we were to lose 192, I'd be looking for 188 and then this imbalance down here towards 183 as our supports. So just be careful. We got to hold 192. My gut tells me we're going to rebound tomorrow morning, then possibly continue lower into like the 192 area. If we lose that, we'll dip more, but watch it very, very carefully. We'll see if support holds. Amazon's holding up quite decently right now. It might just continue to shuffle. There's no sign of it kind of rejecting yet. If we do lose 177, I'd be looking for this trend line to be touched around this 176 area. If we break 180, we remain bullish. I think it might just consolidate for a bit and then get closer to 180. So I think it's holding up decently thus far. For Meta, we look a little bit weak. We have head and shoulders like structure. If we end up losing 525, we could be dipping all the way down to lower levels such as the 520 area. And also this imbalance all the way down here. But we have kind of like a head and shoulders that's starting to form on Meta. There's a risk of this dipping lower. If we end up losing 525, I think this might start dipping to the lower 520s all the way down towards about 517. So look for a little bit of downside if this head and shoulders plays out, and then we'll see how things end up developing. For Microsoft is hitting 425 as resistance. If this breaks, we're going all the way up towards 430. If this rejects, we'll be dipping back down towards 421. So watch the resistance at our 200 EMA. If this rejects, we'll be dipping back down. We do have a slight bearish divergence. So look at this resistance. This is going to be kind of tough to break. If we don't break this, we retrace back down to 421. If we do break this, we're going back up to 430. My gut tells me there's a bearish divergence to be careful at this 200 EMA, the red line you see as resistance. It might dip a little bit after hitting that. Google, on the other hand, has been pushing very nicely to this 170 area, but the problem is we haven't been able to hold above that. If we hold above that, we're going all the way up to 172. And then we have 168 as support. If that fails us, we're dipping down to 166. So we'll just have to give this some time. So that being said, guys, we'll see how things end up developing. I wanted to be very patient nonetheless. I just want to thank you all so much for your attention. As far as NIO goes, because of the market kind of dipping here, I think that there's a risk we dip a little bit lower. Unfortunately, we didn't hold support. I was hoping we would pump a little bit and try to hold. We pumped, but we failed to hold ultimately and afterwards. So I think that there's a risk of us dipping back down towards The support's down here around 3.76, and then we'll see if we bounce off that. But just know there is a risk of some downside, so I'm going to be 100% honest about that. With that being said, I thank you for listening. Please have a great day. I'll see you guys in just a couple of hours for another update. Or not a couple of hours, I'll see you guys tomorrow for another update. Until then, have a great day and peace out.